Welcome to Fix It with Jeff. So I received a comment as to, why there's only the DeVille's, the transverse mounted V8 front wheel drive. Well, I found a number of vehicles that came with a transverse mounted V8 front wheel drive. So as you saw, there's many different Cadillac versions that came. We're going to go through that. Had North Star engine. There was a couple other engines that came in these cars. Then you have the Volvo that also came with a front wheel drive V8 engine. Then you had the Ford Taurus SHO. This vehicle also came in a front wheel drive V8 engine. Number of vehicles that I found. So I'm going to list about 10 different vehicles. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe as we go through these different vehicles. Let's begin. We're going to start out with the Cadillac, which had 3 different models that were equipped with front-wheel drive transverse V8 engines. First, obviously, we had the DeVille, which is my wife's daily driver that is featured in my videos. The DeVille is the nameplate used by Cadillac for over 8 generations. It was originally used to designate a trim level of the 1949 Cadillac Series 62, and then later designated as a standalone model. During most of its production years, the DeVille was equipped with a front engine and rear-wheel drive. In the 6th generation, which was in 1985, is when Cadillac introduced the transverse-mounted V8 engine. They used the HT series engines during this generation, which lasted until 1993. During the 7th generation, they equipped the DeVille with an L26 V8 until 1996, when they introduced a 4.6-liter North Star engine that you'll find in most DeVille models since. The last model to carry the DeVille nameplate was in 2005, which at the time was their largest model, and then later replaced in 2006 by the renamed and slightly revised DTS, which in actuality is the 9th generation DeVille. Next we have the Alante, which ran from 1987 to 1993, and a body styled by Pininfarina, an Italian company. The Alante was Cadillac's first attempt at creating a rival to the Mercedes-Benz SL class, yet despite the long bonnet and GT styling, the Alante featured a transverse front engine, front-wheel drive layout, powered by a series of V8 engines, a 170 horsepower 4.1 liter, which was ran from 87 to 88, a 4.5 liter with 200 horsepower from 89 to 92, and a 295 horsepower 4.6 liter North Star in 1993. These engines were paired up with a 4-speed automatic transmission. The Alante was nothing if not the quirkiest vehicle in its class. Finally, in the Cadillac family, we had the Seville. The Seville was manufactured from 1975 until 2004 as a smaller-sized premium model. It was replaced by the STS in 2004. The Seville introduced the front-wheel drive V8 engine in their 2nd generation starting in 1985. I remember this car as a kid, as my father had one in this generation Cadillac. They also had a diesel version, which was also used in Oldsmobiles and Buicks at the time. The Seville model kept the front-wheel drive V8 engine until its last year in 2004. This model never used a North Star engine, even though it had been used in other Cadillac models at the time. The next one in our lineup is the Volvo XC90. I'm not too versed in foreign cars. However, this first generation of the Volvo was introduced at the 2002 North American International Auto Show. It could be had with a 4.4-liter Yamaha-designed V8 engine. This engine was also available in the 2nd generation Volvo S80. In both cases, the engine was mounted transversely, feeding around 300 horsepower to all 4 wheels. A twin turbocharged longitude-mounted version of this engine was used in the Noble M600 supercar, produced a largely 650 horsepower. In late 2022, the electric-only EX90 was introduced as the successor of the XC90. Now we come back to the U.S. market and we look at the Ford Taurus SHO. When it comes to the Ford Taurus SHO, the 3rd generation model is often considered to be the ugliest and least popular of them. But it came with rather a special transverse-mounted 3.4-liter V8 engine with heads made by Yamaha and a block by Cosworth. The double overhead cam V8 produced over 250 horsepower and had a 7,000 RPM redline, and was only available with a 4-speed automatic transmission. Looking at another U.S. maker, Buick had the LaCrosse Super. Resurrecting the model name from its original 1930s to 1950s model, The Super trim of the LaCrosse debuted for 2008 until 2009, sharing its platform and drivetrain with the Chevy Impala SS and the Pontiac Grand Prix GXP. The Buick LaCrosse Super is the textbook definition of a sleeper. The reason? It has a transverse mounted 5.3-liter LS4 V8 providing over 305 horsepower to the front wheels exclusively. Although it looks like something a senior citizen might drive, this beefed up Buick will go from 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. We go back overseas to Italy and we look at the Lancia Thema 8.32. 8.32 refers to the 8 cylinders and 32 valves on this 2.9-liter transverse mounted Ferrari engine wedged under the bonnet of this vehicle. Considering that the Thema was derived from the Saab 9000, we can't help but to wonder what kind of individual thought this was a good idea, especially considering the 8.32 ended up being barely faster than the considerably cheaper and less complicated Thema Turbo. The Thema was produced in limited numbers with 2,370 Series 1s built between 86 and 88, and 1,601 Series 2 built between 89 and 92. All were left-hand drive vehicles, although one Thema 8.32 was converted to right-hand drive by TAC Motor Company in South Africa in 1987. Did you know that Mitsubishi made a V8 engine? The 8880 was a 4.5-liter V8 engine that was used in the Mitsubishi Pradita and its limousine variant, the Dignity. The transverse-mounted 8880 produced 280 horsepower and is extremely rare today. Of the 1,227 Prados built between 99 and 2001, only a fraction of them were V8 powered. Back on the list is some Detroit power in the 9th generation Lincoln Continental. This car was definitely one of the strangest luxury cars of the 1990s. It was powered by the same 4.6-liter double overhead cam V8 engine that was used in the Ford Mustang GT, but shared most of its chassis with the front-wheel drive Ford Taurus. As a result, the V8 was mounted transversely and detuned to avoid overwhelming the front end. The Continental received the V8 engine for the first time since 1987 and was more closely matched to the Northstar V8 engine that Cadillac was using at the time. The 95 to 2002 Continental was the only production vehicle in which a Ford modular family engine was mounted transversely, and the only one to use it in a front-wheel drive application. And finally, we end with the first generation Oldsmobile Aurora, which was probably the most modern-looking Oldsmobile ever made, and it had the powertrain to match. The front wheels were powered by a transverse-mounted 4-liter version of the Cadillac's Northstar V8. Although the swoopy Oldsmobile wasn't exactly a race car, every car that won the Indianapolis 500 from 1997 to 2001 was powered by a heavily modified Aurora V8. So hopefully this video was informative and you learned something about front-wheel drive V8 engines. Until next time, fix it with Jeff.